4 threads just to crack the key, and it has 80% CPU usage on the box. So you can do anything else at the same time. And even the dumping is slowed by the web cracking.
Est-ce que
I can talk about some. I can show you some code and explain how it works, if you want. It's really a shell script around 700 lines of shell script, and I'm trying to make it modular so you can add plugins and modules and do stuff on using an event-based framework. When something happens, you can register hooks, functions that will be called by the main program. It's a bit technical, so I guess we will pass, but I will be available in the workshop room and we can talk about it.
So we're going to wrap around very quick because there's the next talk that needs to start in 0 minutes. So we spoke about this. We are trying to see about behaviors that we could have depending on the situation we want. So you could store, for example, profile on your key or inject datagram to control it in boot mode, or use some kind of web UI that could be set up. And the idea is maybe to use some kind of multi-ops capability, meaning that you would be at the same time trying to monitor for scan, for example, some channel, and at the same time you'd be client to another network, and at the same time you'd be serving request as an access point. So that means that you could sniff and basically detect networks, and at the same time continue to provide connectivity to networks that you successfully cracked before. So here we have some details about the kind of hooks that we could have. We are going to extend as much as we can in order so that new tools that are popping up can be integrated into it. Now we have a few things that works and a few things that need to be tested, but we are talking about maybe integrating attacks like WPA, and also there are some access points that mitigate the web attacks by doing something. So some people talk about injecting fake IVs. There's some tool called RDCloak NG, which is supposedly the goal is to filter out the requests or the IVs that are not looking genuine. The idea is maybe to try to filter them, but there's some issues related to the limitations. It doesn't work, yeah. We are also working with Calc, with some high representative here, in order to integrate communication with a web WPA cracking cluster and have a two-way kind of communication. First communication is to get some hashes from some well-known SSIDs in order to crack WPA with some kind of well, rainbow tables, but more limited and more targeted, and at the same time provide the cluster with feedback about what are the SSIDs that are being used and what are the challenge response that we got. I'm not going to talk about these little hacks. We had funny things from the hackerspace Brussels people. So the HSB, thanks to Benjamin, I think you recognize this one. Benjamin is here. So he's the creator of this beautiful kind of waveguide that we can use in order to put very discreetly our OpenWRT connected to this. There's more discrete yet version, which is this one. You can see the RP SMA connector just there. So basically it goes to you guys. Of course, when you really want to be doing some omni scan, you can use, well, these little nice omni kind of antenna. But you could want to be targeting some kind of bigger, how to say, and farther looking network. So you can use this kind of Yagi, which is much more efficient, of course. Then the stealthiness factor has to be quite basically studied. Wrapping up, so some ideas that we are thinking about is actually integrating a mesh network into it. That means that as soon as you'd connect HostileWRT, you'd be actually loving the world by sharing your connectivity that you found and starting to work in a more collaborative way. This could be very useful in places where there's net censorship. If you read the novel, which is called Little Brother by Cory Doctorow, there's some kind of network that is called XNet, which is probably the same in the spirit. The idea is basically having a non-internet, because the internet now is so threatened by governments who want to put the control back on it. Then we have to invent non-internet, something that is not internet and that is maybe more free in its way. So that could be also things like overlay networks with Tor or another network protocol. So the idea is to use some kind of anonymous browsing, but also anonymous VPN. So here again, the HSB and Benjamin are quite on it. Also to do some phishing tests. So how many people would get disconnected by a denial of service attack on their access point? Of course, we're speaking of pen test here, of course. And then be presented with a Windows-looking login and password request in their browser, but they are actually connected to a Wi-Fi network which has the same SSID as the networks they're getting. So they'd be, oh yeah, it has a new interface. Oh, it's better in the web. I like it more. And type their login and password. This is typically the kind of things that could happen. Yeah, some bugs. Well, don't store on flash. I did it and I fucked up on the first run. So it's very slow and can wreak havoc in your GFFS file system. We need to debug with newest APIs that are protecting it with some web protection. And we need to find other bugs. So here we're in need of some people. Well, I'll let some of the detail here, but one thing that is interesting is to find exit nodes for the kind of overlay networks that we want to do. So it would be to have servers that receive our DNS packets and ICMP packets in a distributed way and then forward them to the correct destination. So if you have massive amount of server on the internet and want to participate in something fun, where here it is.
It's just to use open networks in a way that can be interesting.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and see you in a bit.